continue in this vice of poverty and hunger among us. Of course, we know the products that are counterfeited. I understand now shoes. I don't think in Kenya we counterfeit shoes yet, but we do import a lot of counterfeit shoes. I shall be looking a bit more closely. But electronic equipment, I mean, the cables, the construction, I mean, we know them. You're all in the room and we know what it is doing. But for me, I think one of the biggest is just the public health and safety. So ladies and gentlemen, like I mentioned, this is a menace that we must keep our finger on the pulse on. Companies as well as enforcement agencies are becoming increasingly aware of the problems of counterfeiting. All companies actually need to make sure that their trademarks are adequately protected to implement anti-counting policies to deal with the menace. A number of technologies such as holograms, smart cards, biometric markers and inks can be employed to protect and authenticate genuine products. These devices vary considerably in degree of sophistication and cost. However, in order to be implemented, the technology really must be cost-effective, compatible with the product, and the distribution chain resistant and durable. Enforcement agencies are obviously another way to fight and combat this measure, and as you know, the ACA was established by the Anti-Counterfeit Act in 2008 to combat this using a four-pronged approach. We do enforcement where we undertake investigations, we seize suspected counterfeit goods, we arrest offenders and destroy them. We do public awareness and outreach through open forums, roadshows, media campaigns and exhibitions. We have actually trained 420 police officers, Mr. Musiambo, you'd be happy to know, 820 magistrates and judges, and held over 21 county security committee sensitization forums. For me, that is one of the areas where that has really been successful. When we sensitize counties, especially down to the regional level, we do find a lot of people saying, we didn't even know this was counterfeit, or we didn't know where to take our challenges. And all we are doing as ACA is telling them, this is where you bring our issues, and also of course, the security agents. Training to build capacity of law enforcement agencies and other stakeholders. And I must thank you, the private sector, because you do actually come and help us, train us on your products, to upskill us, because the sophistication of these counterfeiters is something next to none. And our fourth arm is research. And this one is really to inform strategy, awareness, enforcement, and policy. We undertook the baseline study, like you heard, on the extent, and this is where we found the numbers that we do, and we continue to research and to actually benchmark with other countries globally. But fighting this menace is also without its fair share of challenges. Lack of information sharing has really been cited as one of the largest challenges in combating counterfeit. Increased international trade, emerging markets is yet another one. Increased share of products that are attractive to copy, such as branded clothing, software, shoes like we have had. Advances in technology. We are experiencing sophistication of illicit trade crimes due to advanced and dynamic IT. We have engaged online markets. We have emerging online markets, and IT is now an intermediary in the supply chain, cutting the conventional warehousing and transport, which was actually easier to intercept. With modern technologies, one can copy anything, including trademarks, holograms, barcodes. Copying and passing off is now a lot easier. Internally, our challenges, despite the National Consumer Survey showing the level of public awareness of illicit trade has actually grown. It's 64.14. Counterfeiting is not going down. It's something that actually continues to perplex us. And we wonder, is the challenge poverty? Ignorance? What really could be driving this? We also have budgetary constraints and capacity challenges. As ACA, we are operating at a suboptimal level with 117 staff against 260. And that's why we thank you, our partners, for really coming to join us to help us augment our numbers in this fight. There's also a lack of judicial support. They don't seem to understand it completely. We have trained 880, but we must continue training them. We need to look at this as economic sabotage, because that's exactly what it is. It is robbing us of our own revenues, and it is taking the lives of our own citizens. And let us not ignore the criminal nature of this menace that will question the integrity of all of us who are around it. So despite these challenges, we have made some inroads. Our biggest success was through a collaboration in 2018 when we established the multi-agency teams with the executive level and technical working groups to strengthen multi-agency interventions and collaborations. Our enforcement team actually seized counterfeit goods worth 3.4 billion and destroyed counterfeit goods worth 1.4. We all know how this fight went eventually. The state started feeling that tunapoteza kura, the small traders are upset. So what we were discussing, in fact, actually today with Mr. Musiambo, is how can we take the learnings of that action of the multi-agency and make it friendly. There's no real friendly way to curb crime, but there's a way where you can do it where both sides actually see the importance. They'll not stop, but basically we need to find a way to get more buy-in. We've also collaborated with private sector who give us intelligence, and we've developed our own sumoto motion to try and bring these counterfeiters to book. We've collaborated with the security agencies, National Illicit Trade Observatory. We've worked closely, again, with you in training our staff. We've developed an intelligence-led unit at the ACA to help us profile counterfeiters so that we're able to smoke them out. We've collaborated, like we said, with the judiciary, and we continue with all of you in this room to fight it in one way or another. So as you can see in Kenya, ACA, we do play quite an important role in information sharing, collaborating, working with enforcement agencies, and raising awareness. But is this enough? Is this enough to combat $600 billion globally, 5% world trade locally? World trade, but in Kenya, 628 billion. Perhaps because we've not done our study, we are standing at 1,000. So over the years, what is the way forward? Over the years, the management and the board and the research, we started benchmarking and looking at what is happening around, and started looking to see what are the other effective solutions that we can implement. And after careful deliberating and noting that 80% of counterfeit goods come from outside, this is when we came up and we said Kenya is now ready for recordation. Rated as one of the most effective enforcement tools in prohibiting importation of counterfeit goods, it is actually applied in Indonesia, where the law requires recordation with the Directorate General of Intellectual Properties for imports. UAE, the Dubai Customs Department, use a trademark recordation system to combat the entry of illicit goods. South Africa, under the Counterfeit Goods Act 1997, owners of intellectual property rights, through application, grant commission for customs power to seize and detain counterfeit goods or suspected counterfeit goods imported into the country. Also in the United States, the U.S. Customs and Border Control is charged with protection of intellectual property rights and guarding against the infringement and trademarks by administering recordation of trademarks recorded by the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office on the Principal Registrar and Copyrights Registry of the U.S. Copyright Office. So nothing new globally, but new to us. We amended the Anti-Counterfeit Act through the Miscellaneous Act in 2018 to provide for a recordation of intellectual property rights. The recordation law calls for creation of a database of IPR information relating to trademarks, copyrights, trade names, for all goods to be imported into the country. We need to stop this at our borders. 80% we can read at our borders. The data will be used by border and customs officers to verify goods to be imported and prevent counterfeit products before entering the country. And this can only assist us in the battle, as we request you to join as our partners on this worthy cause. No innovative tools, ladies and gentlemen, no innovative tools against illicit menace would be met with open hands. I don't think when the doctor tells you you're going into surgery, it's not painless. You know, and you sign the consent form and you do it. Why? Because you know it is important. So I believe it is time to take this bold move and actually adopt recordation. Like I say, it will not be without pain and challenges. And we've heard the challenges that you're bringing up, and we are willing to listen. You already noted we have removed the starting line to January of next year, and for those of you
illicit trade. She's a voice in corporate Kenya, and we all know the work that she has done in the past to try and make our country safe from counterfeit products. And so thank you very much, Flora, and please continue with the work that you are doing together with other players in this industry. I have another present for the person who is going to respond to this question. And I think, and I want to believe that Maroon Commandos, the challenge has been thrown your way. We are of the opinion that you are up to the challenge. You can decide to let us down, but there will be consequences. Anyway, so the next question is, I want you to guess which is the world's third most counterfeited product. Yes. Say that again. Jewelry. She got it. And so for your present, can we clap for her? That is a good present enough. How many people have received a round of applause here? And so you are one of them. Keep it up. Thank you so very much. And now, without further ado, I want to invite Dr. Bruno Linyiru. He's a Trade Secretary, State Department for Trade, Ministry of Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development. And as it has become our culture, let us put our hands together for Dr. Linyiru.
Bidhaa bandia au bidhaa gushi bado ni kero kuu kwa uchumi wa taifa letu. Ndio maana tumekusanyika hapa leo, tumejumuika tunaposherehekea siku hii kuu kwamba tuhamasisha wananchi wetu kuhusu kupigana na biashara ya bidhaa gushi. Deputy Head of Public Service and Coordinator of Multi-Agency Enforcement Team, Bwana Wanyama Musiambu, the Chair of the Board of Directors of Anti-Counterfeit, Madam Flora Mutahi, the Deputy Commissioner Nairobi County, Bwana Kiambi Kimathi, Tilmark East Africa represented by Eric Sirari, The Acting Executive Director and Anti-Counterfeit Authority, Frida Kaberia, officers from the national government agencies and county government of Nairobi, and our viewers online on various platforms, good morning. I stand here to represent the Ministry of Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development. First, apologies from the Cabinet Secretary. She is away leading the Kenyan delegation in Geneva in the MC12 WTO talks. Also, apologies from my PS, Ambassador Johnson Weru, again who is held up in another official function. My name is Dr. Bruno Lenyiro, Secretary Trade, State Department for Trade. Thank you for having us here, especially to commemorate the World Anti-Counterfeit Day 2022, whose ostensibly purpose is to raise public awareness on matters dealing with trade in counterfeits, and also develop collaborative frameworks at all levels and find action areas to combat counterfeiting and, to a large extent, illicit trade. The State Department for Trade and Enterprise Development therefore appreciates the Anti-Counterfeit Authority for organizing the World Anti-Counterfeit Day to discuss initiatives for productive conversations towards building synergies and strengthen partnerships to address illicit trade in the country. Therefore, the State Department for Trade and Enterprise Development is committed towards strengthening these efforts outlined in the implementation matrix of the National Action Plan to combat illicit trade. I note with appreciation that they are in line with the national trade policy that calls for support and putting up measures to protect Kenya's domestic trade from unfair trade practices. The government therefore is committed to improving the business environment in Kenya to make the country the preferred destination for local and international investors as part of the broad government's industrial development program, that is the Kenya Industrial Transformation Program. We will continue to support efforts geared towards the delivery of the development agenda under the big four pillars of manufacturing, affordable housing, healthcare for all, and food security. We cannot achieve these pillars if we cannot fix trade in counterfeit goods as well as promote fair trade practices in this country. I want to particularly assure our manufacturers, investors, and Kenyans that the government has a strategic agenda and plans for combating counterfeiting and illicit trade in general. As I conclude, I'd like to appreciate my senior, who is also Wanyama Musiambu, the Deputy Head of Public Service, who was appointed by His Excellency the President to coordinate this war, and rather to coordinate the multi-agency enforcement team against illicit trade. You have achieved a lot, sir, in this war, and I believe we will continue to work together towards full implementation of the National Action Plan to combat illicit trade. Allow me to welcome him, and I would say ni wajibu wangu sasa ni mwalike mgeni wetu rasmi Bwana Wanyama Musiambo aje atuhutubie na atupe mawaidha. Asanteni.
Thank you so much.
Wow. Good morning. Thank you very much, Dr. Bruno, for welcoming me here to make remarks. The chair of the board of directors, the Anti-Counterfeit Authority, Madam Flora, the executive director, Madam Kaberia Frida, my brother, the Dr. Bruno, standing in for the PS, Bwana Deputy County Commissioner, standing in for the County Commissioner Nairobi, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, private sector stakeholders, all of us here who have taken our time to be here, with humility, once more I say good morning. We seem to be dull. I don't know, because we are fighting illicit goods in the country, or what is happening? Good morning. And because we are dull, I will try to be as much as possible, very brief. Because I look at the faces and I see we are not very enthusiastic. Am I right, or my assessment is wrong? It's wrong. Let us participate. Am I right or I'm wrong? I'm wrong. So we are enthusiastic. Very good, then we can go. Now, basically, I'm here to launch this new facility. That is my main task. We have had speeches, we have had remarks, so mine will be very brief, specifically to launch the facility, and then we move to the next level. But before we do that, maybe I'll have one or two remarks to make. And first and foremost, I want to say that I'm privileged to be here today, to be participating in this forum where we are marking the sensitization globally regarding issues of anti-counterfeit, sensitizing ourselves as a country and joining the rest of the world to say that here is a problem, and then how do we fix the problem. So I must say the SCA board, led by Madam Flora, and the director, and the members of the board and the staff, thank you for inviting me to be part of this process. Very, very briefly, you've heard of the multi-agency. I think as I sat there, every other speaker mentioned about the multi-agency team. And I just want to confirm that multi-agency in all our aspects of government operations is the way to go. It is not only limited to the fighting the anti-counterfeit goods in this country or fighting illicit trade only, but it goes beyond that, that for us as government, across board, we have adopted the multi-agency approach in dealing with most of the issues in this country, because that way then there is no excuse of people or government departments or government functionaries or government agencies working in silos and saying, giving excuses that probably one or two issues have not been addressed because one agency has done its part and the other agency has not done its part. But to be able to build a synergy across government, we have now adopted the multi-agency approach. And therefore, across government, you will see more often than not the use of the word multi-agency. And indeed, it has helped us to be able to achieve quite a lot, because now we don't have excuses and we have limited, if not eradicated, the whole question of working in silos. And therefore, in this fight against illicit trade, fighting counterfeits, we have been very, very aggressive, particularly since the year 2018, when none other than His Excellency the President directed that for us to be able to achieve the envisaged 15% for manufacturing, to get to 15% GDP by the year 2022, which is today, which is this year, we had to do, President directed that we had to address the issue of illicit trade much more aggressively than hitherto. And from that time, the multi-agency team, whose members were put together, have indeed done quite a commendable job. And we have various agencies, some are here. The Kenya Revenue Authority, I hope it is represented here. The Kenya Bureau of Standards, and then the parent agency itself that has invited us here today, the Anti-Counterfeit Authority, the other agencies like the Pharmacy and the Poisons Board, the Weights and Measures, public health, immigration, just to mention a few that were put together. And these agencies hit the road running. And we have been able to do one or two things, and at least the Kenyan population has been sensitized that indeed multi-agency is the way to go in all aspects of government. Ladies and gentlemen, we must appreciate that indeed we are not here just because we want to do a ritual, but it is a serious conversation, a serious discourse, where we are asking ourselves, where have we come from, where are we, and where are we going? Because counterfeiting is indeed a menace. It is not only an economic threat, it's also a security threat. And it is for that reason that we have come together under the umbrella of the multi-agency to be able to attack it from all fronts. Because if we don't do that, then the security implications that will come from that direction of counterfeited products have serious consequences, would have serious consequences for this country. And therefore, look at it from the economic point of view, look at it from the security point of view, look at it from the social point of view, look at it across. And then you will see, even culturally, you see that we have an elephant in the house, an elephant that we must eliminate, an elephant that we must remove. And so as we sit here, we must acknowledge that indeed we have a job to do, and this job, we are not going to finish it today, because as we sit and plan, those involved in the same are also planning how to counter what we are doing, because they want to do the shortcuts. They want to earn a quick shilling. And therefore, as we do one thing, they do the other thing. And that's why we must have the resolve to be able to fight, and fight smart, and ensure that we win. And let me give you the comfort, particularly our brothers and sisters in the private sector, and especially those whose properties have been infringed upon, the intellectual property rights. The comfort is that the government is committed. The government is committed to ensure that your properties, to ensure that those doing clean business, those doing clean trade will be protected by government continuing to give an enabling environment for proper clean business to thrive. So we look at what we've done and where we are today, we can say yes, we have given comfort, and we will continue to give comfort to the private sector and to other players in the economy, that the government is on top of the situation and nothing has been lost and nothing will be lost. And we have now even engaged a higher gear, and that is why we are here today, to be able to do what we are doing. It is the duty and the responsibility of all of us to ensure that our economy thrives. When the economy thrives, we are talking about jobs. When the economy thrives, we are talking of wealth creation. And therefore, it is not only the duty of one side. Maybe we sit back and say the government. It is a collaboration of the public sector, private sector, to ensure that these things are done. And they are done for us today and for posterity. And therefore, let us tighten our belts. Let us continue moving forward. Ladies and gentlemen, having said what I've said, I just wanted to read some remarks, because I was talking off the cuff, and I know one person can say this fellow just came to walk here and the sweet talk us because he was just talking off the head. I have a very serious speech here to make, but I was just, because you looked a bit dull, so I decided also to go dull by talking off the cuff. I think now we are there. Are we there? Are we there? Madam Flora, the chair of the board, said it very clearly that we've made serious achievements from 2018 to date, and we continue to do. If you look at the amount of illicit goods that the multi-agency has netted for that period, it is in billions of shillings. And that tells you the level of threat that we have across there. And that tells you why we should tighten our belts and even go further. We have been able to do that, and it is my privilege today to thank all the parties that have been involved, the agencies that were involved, that they continue to be involved to ensure that we are able now to assure Kenyans that indeed the environment is in safe hands. Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm pleased to join you as we commemorate this year's World Anti-Counterfeit Day. The Executive Office of the President acknowledges the importance of the World Anti-Counterfeit Day to inform about the reality and the consequences of trade in counterfeiting. We recognize this day because counterfeiting and illicit trade is a matter of public interest and public concern, since it has multifaceted effects on each one of us, on every individual, every organizations, and even governments all over the world. Kenya's development priority areas and preparedness include that Kenya, like any other economy, is facing the wrath of counterfeiting and illicit trade. We cannot have economic development and growth unless we put up structures that support economic development, that support industrial development through manufacturing. To accelerate economic development, the government has prioritized the manufacturing sector under the Big Four agenda framework of development, targeting to have the sector's contribution to GDP rise from 8% year 2017 to 15% year 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, this cannot happen if we let and allow counterfeiting and illicit trade to thrive. As a government, the legal basis for protecting intellectual rights holders and legitimate trade is founded in the following areas. One is the Constitution. Two, international agreements that the government has signed, statutes, the common law, and the government policy. The Kenyan Constitution, under Section 45, obliges the government to protect and enforce intellectual property rights. In addition, we have a number of other legal instruments to combat counterfeiting. In order to tighten the policy around intellectual property enforcement, the Cabinet approved the Intellectual Property Bill 2020 that looks forward to the combination of the parallel intellectual property related acts and calls for merger of all the intellectual property related agencies that are namely the Kenya Copyright Board, KECOB, the Kenya Intellectual Property Institute, KIPI, and the Anti-Counterfeiting Authority, SCA, so as to form one Intellectual Property Office of Kenya, IPOC. Together with this, Kenya is a member of the World Intellectual Property Organization and the World Trade Organization, and has also signed, is a signatory to various agreements and treaties, and several other major international and regional intellectual property conventions, like the African Regional Industrial Property Organization. These memberships indicate the commitment of the government towards protection of intellectual property rights. Today, 4 years ago, His Excellency the President directed the formation of a multi-agency task force to combat illicit trade that was embedded later on in a national action plan against illicit trade. The action plan was to address the challenges faced by the manufacturing sector and the genuine traders due to illicit trade, and furthermore, substandard goods posed health and safety risks to our consumers, and very importantly, the loss of government revenue as a result of tax evasion. Multi-agency team managed to seize goods worth over 3.0 billion and the confiscated goods worth over 13.3 billion. And this journey continues. You remember the statistics were given by the MC. You can see if within that period alone we have been able to confiscate this, and we continue. And as Frida alluded to it, that during the period when we, at the height of the COVID-19, we were able to slow down our activities because of the challenges of the COVID. So you can imagine if we had not slowed down because of COVID, particularly the year 2020 and the 2021, you can imagine the kind of statistics we will be giving. Today, going by this year's theme, leveraging technology in the fight against counterfeit trade, the intellectual property rights recordation aims to prevent counterfeit imports by developing an IPR database for goods to be imported into the country, and using that database to be able to check imports for counterfeit goods. Ladies and gentlemen, it is worth noting that Kenya is the second country in Africa to adopt the IPR recordation after the Republic of Africa, which administers recordation through their Companies and Intellectual Property Commission. Why are we doing this? The aim of the property right recordation include to prevent counterfeit imports, and that is the key issue, into Kenya. And this will translate into proactive protection of health and the safety of the consumers. Number two, the IPR owners will be protected from unfair competition from counterfeit imports. Traders and importers will have a platform to confirm the genuineness of goods prior to importation, and this will in turn cushion them from law enforcement consequences such as seizures and prosecutions. Remember what we are doing here today. We launch and we implement. We will have cut almost by half what we are doing, because we will be able to know exactly what is coming in before it comes in. Before we start running around ourselves and doing, chasing each other up and about, we will be able to know what is it that has come in and what is it that is coming in and what is illegal before it even comes here. And therefore we will save a lot of time in doing maybe what we do now. Because as we know, learning is a continuous process, and with the technology, we will be able to cut down on a lot of energy by being able to detect firsthand before we even start chasing each other in the streets regarding these goods. So we emphasize the importance of technology, and we want everybody, we request everybody to support this initiative, this facility that we are about to launch, because it's going to help us save time, it's going to help us save our traders, it's going to help us save the importers the agony of having to fight with the counterfeits. The Anti-Counterfeit Authority remains committed to protecting the public from harmful counterfeit products and goods. SCA continues to enlighten the public on the dangers of counterfeit goods through sensitization and training forums. Before I conclude, I want to make an appeal, and this is the appeal, that counterfeiting is corruption. When we talk about corruption, it's a big thing. And sometimes when people talk about corruption, and we have noticed in this country mostly, the fingers are very fast to move to point at government, to point at government functionaries, to point at government agencies. But nobody, rarely do we say that counterfeiting is a form of corruption. And it is a corruption that has gone in almost all sectors of the economy. We have been told here that the most counterfeited items in this country, we've been told by the chair and the director, the electronics, we have been told here jewelry, we have been told shoes, and many other things. But nobody, all of us, we never point the fingers in that direction when we talk about corruption. So I want to emphasize and appeal that first and foremost, corruption is indeed corruption. I mean, counterfeiting is corruption. Because you want to get where you didn't invest. You want, like when you are stealing the intellectual property of another person, you are actually taking where you didn't invest. You are taking where you didn't sweat for. It is corruption. And therefore, when we talk about corruption, let us look at corruption in totality. And so counterfeiting is corruption. It is a it is unethical. It is immoral. So, in fact, one solution would be if all of us became patriotic Kenyans. And we say this country is our country. And let us do the right thing individually before we even point fingers. What is it that I'm doing? And what is it that you're doing? And what is it that all of us are doing in our spaces? That way, we will be able to move away from these issues that we are talking about, shortcutting, unethical behavior, and so on and so forth. And therefore, I want to assure you that the Kenya government is fully committed and has remained steadfast in providing an enabling business environment for the realization of economic growth and economic development. My parting shot, those involved in unethical business activities, counterfeiting, shall be isolated and prosecuted. On this one, there are no apologies to make. On this one, the resolve is there. On this one, the commitment of government is there. And therefore, as we come up with various approaches, various ways of dealing with counterfeiting. The warning remains to those who do the shortcuts, to those who are involved in counterfeiting and other malpractices that are corrupt in nature, that the government will isolate them, will prosecute them. We respect the rule of law, and we will do exactly that. Because as you all know, the singular duty of government is to protect lives and the property of its citizens. And through counterfeiting, if it's allowed to grow, we will be threatening the lives of Kenyans and threatening the property of Kenyans. And that is the responsibility number one of government, that we will protect lives and property. Now, when Kenyans are subjected to goods that are of substandard, goods that are counterfeited, then we will be threatening the lives of Kenyans. And the government will not allow the lives of Kenyans to be threatened. The government will not allow the property of Kenyans to be compromised. So anybody going in that area should know that the action will be taken fast, firmly, and swiftly. And on that note, I say thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to be able to share with you and to give you that government commitment that we are on this journey. We will not relent until we clean our business environment. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Another round of applause for Wanyama Musiamu, the Deputy Head of Public Service and Coordinator of Multi-Agency Enforcement. Thank you for your words and for the work that you are doing with your team to rid the country of counterfeit goods. Ladies and gentlemen, we arrived at that critical juncture where we're going to launch the recordation of intellectual property rights system. We've been talking about it this morning. Time now to launch this system officially. But before we do so, we're going to invite Maroon Commandos for that special item that was requested by the chair. And for your information, Maroon Commandos is one of the oldest bands in this country. It was started back in 1970. It is a military band that was founded by Habel Kifoto. So let's put our hands together for Maroon Commandos.
Uvivu na adui mkubwa wa ujenzi wa taifa, walichokimbia sakisababisha chuja. Ewe ndugu yangu, amka kumekucha, kamata jembe na panga, twende shamba. Hata wewe mwanangu, amka kumekucha, kwani hizi ndizo saa za kwenda shule. Hata wewe karani, amka kumekucha, kwani hizi ndizo saa za kwenda kazi. Uvivu ni adui mkubwa wa ujenzi wa taifa, walichokimbia sakisababisha chuja. Ewe ndugu yangu, amka kumekucha, kamata jembe na panga, twende shamba. Hata wewe mwanangu, amka kumekucha, kwani hizi ndizo saa za kwenda shule. Hata wewe karani, amka kumekucha, kwani hizi ndizo saa za kwenda kazi. Uvivu ndio adui ujenzi wa taifa, jiepushe na uvivu, tujenge taifa. Ndugu yangu, kumekucha, amka wende shamba,
jiepushe
na uvivu, tujenge taifa.
mwanangu,
Kumekucha, amka wende shule,
elimu
ndiyo msingi wa maendeleo.
barani,
Kumekucha, amka wende kazi,
jiepushe
na uvivu, tujenge taifa.
uvivu,
Ndiyo adui, ujenzi wa taifa.
jiepushe
Na uvivu, tujenge taifa.
ndugu yangu,
Kumekucha, amka wende shamba,
jiepushe
na uvivu, tujenge taifa.
mwanangu,
Kumekucha, amka wende shule,
hiyo elimu
ndiyo msingi
baba
wa maendeleo.
barani,
Kumekucha, amka wende kazi,
jiepushe
na uvivu, tujenge taifa.
A round of applause for Maroon Commandos. Thank you very much for taking us back in time. I'm sure many of you can relate to that song. And Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, the Baba and Mama of broadcasting. And Maroon Commandos, you do not have any idea what that song used to do to us in the morning, especially during the cold season. You do not want to wake up, but all of a sudden you hear that song and you have to wake up and go to school. We all remember those beautiful days. Thank you very much for such a beautiful item. Time now to launch the system, and I want to request the executive table, led by the head of public, the deputy head of public service and coordinator of Mati Agency Enforcement, Wanyama Musiambo, to come to the stage so that we can launch officially the recordation of intellectual property rights system. Kindly join us right here so that we can launch this important system. We're going to do it from the podium. There is a button to be pressed, and so I'm requesting the technical team, yes, just kindly come over here. I'm going to request the technical team to also join us here so that we ensure that we press the right button. And Wanyama Musiambo, I understand you're going to press the button, and there will be a countdown from 10 to 1. And so we're being requested to be upstanding when we get to 5 so that we can clap for the system to go live. And so without further ado, I request the technical team now to join us in doing this. Wanyama Musiambo, it's your moment to shine, to press the button. Let's see how you're going to press it. This is the button. Yes, sir. Yes. And Wanyama Musiambo is ready to press the button. And the button has been pressed. Thank you very much. And now the system is live. Now it's time for importers now to go and log in, key in your details, and then the rest will be done. Kindly take your position. And now we're getting into the moment of what we are calling our time for critical dialogue, whereby we're going to have a team on stage to help respond to some of the questions that you have posted so far and some of the questions that you may be having. And so I want to request Wanyama Musiambo to come to the stage kindly, and Flora Mutahi, the chairperson of ACA, Samuel Matano, the Vice Chair of Anti-Illicit Trade Subcommittee at the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, kindly come to the front.
continue working alone, one department. And therefore you will find the ACA is critical in this area and other players on the need basis to ensure that what is happening, all of us know, and all of us can partake of it, and all the agencies involved can be able to contribute and ascertain that indeed what is happening is for the interest of all of us, so that we don't run back and say, oh, this one we didn't know, we didn't see, we didn't do, we didn't participate. So bottom line, the answer to that question is that even in this one, the multi-agency approach is key.
Very good. And thank you for, emphasizing on that point that the multi-agency team is going to work with all the stakeholders in the utilization of this system. And I want to turn now to Flora Mutahi. So when is the IPR recordation kicking off, and what are the sanctions for non-implementation?
Thank you very much. As you heard, we had put a deadline, I think, of July, to kick off in July. But of course, there was a lot of hue and cry. A lot of people didn't understand it, and we said, let us take a step back, give us 6 months to talk, to collaborate, so that we get on the same page. So we are saying by 1st of January is when now recordation must be done. I do know there's a little bit of a controversy. Is it mandatory or not? Because there are some countries where it is not mandatory. But I think the position as we stand right now is it should be, because that is what is really going to help us curb it. If we make it non-mandatory, then it's going, I guess it will become a system in futility. We've spent a lot of time and money, and we are convinced, the board is persuaded with management that this is the way that we are really going to reduce counterfeit. Yeah.
And so there are conversations around on how to make this process mandatory.
Yes, there are conversations. No, there are conversations really about, can we all sit on the table together? Can we see the importance of actually doing this together?
Doing this together. Thank you very much. And you're talking about January 2023?
Yes, January 1st, 2023. And for the few that had recorded, we appreciate, and we're going to carry forward. And for the rest, let's not wait. Kenyans, we have this habit of when we have a deadline, we then go running and saying, oh, I haven't registered my Kura here, I haven't done. We need to just we're sort of encouraging people to record with us, so that we go through the pains together and make sure by January 1st we are ready, because that is how we can then rid our country of this menace.
Thank you very much, Flora Mutahi. And I want to turn to Shippers Council, Gilbert Langat. Well, your members play a key role in the importation and exportation process. What measures has the council put in place to ensure you do not facilitate illicit trade?
Thank you. Yes, I come from the Shippers Council of Eastern Africa. We represent importers and exporters. It's not for us to facilitate illicit trade. We want to facilitate genuine trade. However, we still have aspects of illicit trade that happens, and we've heard the numbers that you're talking about. What we are doing as a Shippers Council is actually collaborate with the government agencies. We collaborate with the ACA. We collaborate with CAPS. We actually sit in some of these institutions to ensure that we actually are compliant. But we also carry out awareness, substantial amount of awareness through our own networks and also with these agencies. ACA is one of them. We had one last week about this. I think the main concern that people have is, at what cost is this compliance? And I think those are the issues that we need to address. It costs a lot to comply in terms of how much we pay to, say, if we do the recording. How do we ensure that everyone complies? And those are the issues that we need to discuss. And make it easier. And the best way to do is actually to go the multi-agency way, where whatever we are doing with CAPS, we are doing with ACA, all of them are actually, CAPS are now registering products. Why can't we use the registration of products? Why can't we use the enhanced COC as one program that actually works for all of us, so that people then become compliant in everything that we do? And I think that is the best way to approach this. Thank you.
Very well. Thank you, Langat. And I want to turn to Mr. Samuel Matano, the Vice Chair of Anti-Illicit Trade Subcommittee at the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. What do you see as the benefit of IPR recordation to your members?
Thank you. So, hamjambo ni nyote. Thank you for that question. First of all, I'd like to just assure you that I'm sitting here on behalf of my chairman of the committee in CAM that fights counterfeit, and I'm the genuine article recorded by Joseph over here. So I'm not counterfeit as I sit here. But on a serious note, for us as the manufacturers, I think it's been a long journey for us to reach where we are with recordation, and it's a good thing, because for us, recordation would address the issue of counterfeit right at the entry points. The entry points into Kenya are well defined, and once counterfeit product has entered and is scattered throughout the country, the task becomes much harder to fight the counterfeit, to seize it, as Bwana Musiambo has said. But if it is addressed right at the port of entry, then it is all together and it is much easier to intercept. And so for us, we are very much for it, as it would make the enforcement action much simpler. The other aspect is that it does level the playing field. I think we listened to the speakers during the plenary session, and they talked about the issue of intellectual property rights. These counterfeiters are lazy people who are stealing ideas made by other people. They have done research and development, produced a product, so they take the shortcut and copy that product to put it in your hands. So for us, it would be leveling the playing field so that the government, as is represented here, is the referee and making sure that we are all playing by the same rules. The third aspect is that this recordation would ensure government revenues. As you know, counterfeiters do not pay tax. They not only avoid using their brains to develop their product, but they also avoid paying tax. And so for us as Kenyans, we should support this because it does ensure government revenues for our own social development. That is building roads, schools, hospitals, etc. So we should all rally behind this recordation initiative. It is good for all of us. Fourth is that it would make it easy and fast to identify the real product from the counterfeit, particularly for law enforcers. I think it was also observed here that these are some of the difficulties law enforcers get in the field. When you come across counterfeit, how do you tell a counterfeit product from the genuine one? So recordation would greatly help in that aspect. And then lastly, maybe this is where I should have started, is for the consumer. We are taking some of this product into our bodies, and yet we don't know what the ingredients are, particularly in counterfeit. Some of the ingredients might be harmful, and so again, as citizens of this country, we should support this initiative so that we make sure that what we are putting into our bodies, what we are consuming, what we are using is actually wholesome and will help our bodies. So I think those are the issues. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Very well. Thank you very much, Mr. Matano. And there is comfort knowing that, as members of the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, which is the largest association of manufacturers in this country, that you have embraced this concept of IPR. And now I want to turn to Frida Kaberia. I know, the acting executive director of ACA. I know this is a new technology where the world is moving to. And we, as a country, we are joining other members of the global community in the implementation of the recordance of IPR. Who are the other members are we joining?
Thank you for that question. Kenya will not be the first country to implement recordation. We have US, the UK, Indonesia, China, and South Africa. So we are joining a team that is currently leading in the war against counterfeit. And we honestly feel this is the best direction for the Anti-Counterfeit Authority to embrace. So we have seen, like in China, they've recorded over 15,000. That was by the end of December last year. So we are learning from the best, and we hope to benchmark and really make this country a counterfeit free so that we can promote legitimate trade. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Frida Kaberia, the Acting Executive Director at Anti-Counterfeit Authority. And now I want to turn to Dr. Akoten, also from the Anti-Counterfeit Authority, and he's the Director of Research and Policy and Public Awareness at ACA. And I want to hear from you, because we've been talking about this system so much the whole of this morning, and of course now it is afternoon. Kindly take us through this this whole system. What is it all about? What is IPR recordation?
Okay, thank you so much. I'm John Akoten, Director for Research Awareness and Quality Assurance at the Anti-Counterfeit Authority. That's a very important question. And before I answer it, I want to take an analogy with a child that is born. When a child is born, of course, you are required by law to register the details about that particular child, the date of birth, the name of that particular child, the parents, the names of the parents, that's the mother, and probably the mother, or either of the parents, the place of birth. And then later on, when that child reaches of age, he or she required also to get an identity card. So will be given an ID number, and then probably later on a PIN number. So when you require services, so all this information is actually registered with a particular government agency. But when you require information or services from the government, then you will be required to record that information in a particular format. So there's a form that you have to fill in. You state your names, your date of birth, probably your parents, the name of your parents, if you are both parents or a single parent, the place of birth, maybe the place where you live, and so on, including even your PIN number. So that's the information that actually you are recording for the purposes of getting services from the government. So the same thing also applies also to the intellectual property rights. As a manufacturer, when you are coming up with some creativity, if I can give an example of this water, you're coming up with water. So in the process of coming up with this water, there's a process that you have done some R&D, in coming up with this particular kind of taste of that water. So there's something that you have done in it that's different from probably what another company is doing. So that will give you what's called a patent for the production of that particular water. So that patent, you need to register it with a particular government agency, and that is the Kenya Industrial Property Institute, that will give you a certificate for ownership of that particular patent. Now, in the same product, you may want to give it a name. So in this particular case, probably the name is called Life Plus or Keringet, whatever it is. So that name is a unique name which you want to associate with this particular water. So that's a trademark. Again, you will have also to get registration from KIPI. And this, if you look at the bottle, you may want also to have a certain shape that is attractive to consumers, and you may want also to protect that shape which is an industrial design. So again, you get an industrial design, which is an intellectual property right again from KIPI. So in the end, this particular product has 3 types of intellectual property. Now, that intellectual property is what you are registering with KIPI. But for the purpose of enforcement, because people may want to mimic your product, they may want to produce a product and call it maybe Life Plus or Keringet, whatever it is, or come up with a product with the same kind of shape and so on. So you may want to protect your product from counterfeiting. And that's why now you are required to record all that information. You tell us what is the name of that particular product, what is the shape, and so on. So the physical features of that particular product is what we want you to record. So basically, IP recordation is a database of information about intellectual property right of a product that's subsisting, either for locally manufactured products or imported products, for the purposes of enabling law enforcement agencies to take any proactive action on case of infringement.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Akoteng. And I also want to hear from Wanyama Musiambo. The fact that you are here is a clear indication that the question of illicit trade and counterfeit, has received the highest recognition from the highest office in the land. What measures has the office of the president taken to deal with illicit trade at the grassroots?
Thank you so much, my brother, for that question. I wanted to start by reiterating what I mentioned earlier, that primary objective and the main function of government is to protect lives of its citizens and to protect the property of the citizens. And therefore, in line with that, at the highest level of government, issue that comes first is security. And the security is indeed wide. Sometimes we think that security is confined just to arresting one person, maybe for peddling buza. But security is indeed wide. It's a whole spectrum. And therefore, to be able to address this issue, in answering this question, I want to tell this gathering in this house that government has an elaborate way of managing security issues. And therefore, right from the national government at the top, going down to the grassroots, we have an elaborate security arrangement. Runs from the top to the regions. Previously, we were calling them provinces, now they are regions. At that level, we have the Regional Security Committee that we were previously calling the Provincial Security Committee. You move down below that regional security team, we have security arrangements at the county level. And that system runs down up to the sub-location level. So at all those levels, we have senior responsible officers that are involved in the management of security matters. And what we are discussing today is a security matter, that we don't want counterfeits, that we are fighting counterfeits, that we are protecting Kenyans from illicit. And therefore, at the grassroots, as from the question, that system is alive and active. And therefore, this issue is just a part of the security concerns that our officers deal with on a day-to-day basis to ensure that anything counterfeited is nabbed,
is nipped in the bud, and therefore we have a system that is very strong, a system that has been tested, and a system that is resilient. And even at our borders, border points, we have the border committees at the entry and the exit points. We also have specific officers there again, working with all the other agencies of government that we have mentioned here. We have the KRA at the borders, we have the customs and all those arrangements, but plus the security arrangements that I've mentioned. Therefore, that area is properly taken care of. Of course, we do know that in some places our border is porous, what we normally call panya routes. We do know that, but still, even that, those panya routes, they are under the jurisdiction of the security committees that I've just mentioned that man those areas. So I can assure you that indeed all our areas up to the grassroots, they are taken care of adequately, and we have no reason to believe otherwise. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Wanyama Musiambo, for that assurance of what your team is doing. Time now to turn to the plenary, and we have an opening for 2 questions. Who will be the first to go? Yes.
Thank you so much. So as I said, my name is George Okari. I come from Alisi Hands. We are an association, a federation of many other associations that have come together so that we are able to see how the consumers are also able to be protected. First and foremost, I'll take this chance to thank the government for the big efforts that they are doing so that we are able to at least have our country being secure, and then there is also the component of health. Now, the government has done a great job to be able to come up with this recognition. This is a huge step we look at from the consumer's perspective, because it's going to make a huge difference in this country. But then my bigger concern is this is a huge effort towards protecting what is coming in. The consumers are requesting that what other efforts are being made for the consumers to also be the verifier of the products that the manufacturers are doing. Please, that effort, any company in the private sector that is also making effort to be able to assist the consumers to be able to verify the products would be a huge thing that we would really appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you. And that question, I think, can be addressed by Dr. Akoten here.
All right. Okay, thank you so much, George Okari, for that question. Yes, the IPR reputation is also meant to empower consumers to identify counterfeit goods, just as it's going to empower the law enforcement agencies also to identify, counterfeit goods whenever they are being imported. Currently, there's a program which we call the IPMAS, the Integrated Product Marking Authentication System, which is being developed under the chair of KRA. And this particular system will enable consumers to identify counterfeit goods, or goods before they purchase them. So it's a system that is ongoing. There's already a bill that has already been approved by the cabinet, and I think it has gone now to Parliament for their discussion and approval. And once it's been approved, then we'll be able now to launch this particular system so that consumers will be empowered now to check any product before they purchase. But currently, we still have some technologies which consumers can use. For example, in the seed sector, under the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service, there is what's called the scratch system, where you have to scratch a label before you purchase any seed, especially for the smaller packet of seeds. I think between 2 and 5 kilogram packets, because those are the ones that actually are mostly counterfeited. The bigger ones, 20 kilogram packages are not easily counterfeited. So we already have a system that is being used by consumers to check whether the product are counterfeit or not. But what I'm talking about, which is the GOK mark, is going to apply to all kinds of goods, and it will make it easier for consumers to identify counterfeit goods. Thank you.
Very well, thank you. Let's move to the next question. Yes, the gentleman at the back. Do we have another roaming microphone? Just a minute, I think let's pass this microphone to you.
My name is Alex Fantas Wagare. I come from Protection Logics. We work for Unilever Kenya as blood protection agent. So my question was, how will consumer stand to benefit from recordation?
Thank you. I think we can just take one more question and then we call it. Yes. How will consumers benefit from the system? Yes, gentlemen.
Yeah. Isaac is my name. I'm a committee member on the illicit trade. Matano is my vice chair. My question is, are there offenses and sanctions? And what are some of these offenses and sanctions? I think, Akoten, we have we have pressured you a lot today, so if you may.
All right, I think those two questions goes to Akoten. Kindly respond to them.
Okay, thank you so much, Alex. Yes, consumers are going to benefit immensely, because currently, I think one of the major questions that consumers keep on asking is, you want us to help you to fight counterfeiting, but then how can we identify counterfeit goods before we purchase? And one of the challenges that we face is how much information then do you share with consumers? For example, if we are talking about water or mobile phones and so on. So what are the features that you need to tell the consumers to help them identify counterfeit goods without revealing too much? Because again, remember, if you give more information, there's a possibility that you also, you are also giving out more trade secrets, which now will be counterproductive, because some of those consumers might end up becoming again counterfeiters. So then how much information then do you release to them? So that becomes really a big challenge. With the IPR recordation, we intend to reduce the amount of counterfeit goods coming into the country substantially, almost to zero. And that means that any product that will be found in the shops or within the markets, they'll be genuine. And therefore that will make it easier for consumers to buy products without really caring whether they are, without them really scratching, let's say, technology or finding out whether maybe is it a counterfeit, is it genuine, and so on. So we are actually removing counterfeit goods from the market and ensuring that any product that is being sold, most likely they are genuine. So that's the bigger benefit, of course, they are going to get. And of course, with that is the issue about health and safety. If products are not counterfeit, if products are not, if they are not counterfeit or they are not even substandard, that means that they'll be protected from health and safety issues. Now, on the side of offenses and sanctions, yes, the offenses under Section 32 of the Anti-Counterfeit Act, if you read that particular section, it's really an offense if I can go to that particular section. For example, it's an offense under Section 32. For example, J, it's an offense to import goods without recording with ACA. It's also under subsection 32K. It's an offense to import unbranded goods. L, it's an offense also to fail to declare the quantity or the intellectual property rights of imported goods. And M, it's also an offense to falsely declare the quantity or IPR of imported goods. Then, of course, if you look at the penalties under Section 35 of the Anti-Counterfeit Act, if you are a first offender, of course, the imprisonment is up to 5 years, and you will pay a fine of at least 3 times the value of the goods that have been infringed. And of course, if you are a second offender, then the offense, the imprisonment goes up to 15 years, and the fine goes not less than 5 times the value of the goods that are in question. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Akten. Do we have any comment from the panel in regard to the questions? Yes, Chair.
I think to the question of the gentleman from Unilever around what is there to benefit. Remember, if you have come and recorded the Unilever products with us, then it also stops other people doing the same. So your importation is way faster. Your chances of having counterfeit goods becomes much less, and therefore the consumer is almost guaranteed that they'll get the right product at the right time. At the right time, there are not going to be any delays. And secondly, they're also assured that there's going to be your products are counterfeit free. Because this is what worries us about as consumers. Sometimes you go to buy a product and you hear, this one has had a controversy, you leave it. And maybe it's a genuine product. But if you know these people have they've recorded and, things are seamless, as a consumer, you'll have a lot of confidence. And this is why we are trying to say, let us work together to make sure that we record and therefore we stop the importation of other goods. It will also reduce your costs in suspicion, because this is me, I'm recorded, your goods will come in quicker.
Very good. Any other comments? Because we want to, yes, Langat.
I think this is an opportunity for us, even as private sector, to actually have, and also for multi-agency, to have a one government approach. We all do our business through the single window, the trade facilitation platform. We do through ICMS. Probably it's a high time that now this is part of the process of importation and exportation of goods, so that we have all products recorded under that framework, so that if you are importing anything that is not registered, you are forced to register, then we will actually know who is importing what. Then we can be able to block any goods that are not in compliance with the Act. And I think those are some of the benefits that we'll get from this as a multi-agency. But we also request that even as we do multi-agency, then we need to involve private sector players, because currently, even as we are talking today, we are dealing with the effects of multi-agency operations that happened in 2018, where we still have containers that are being held, and now shippers are being forced to pay for demurrage for the shipping line. So those are issues that I think we can deal with between government and private sector. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so very much indeed, team, for finding time to be here and, of course, responding to those questions. And now the real work begins for importers to register their IP and, of course, to ensure that we rid the country of illicit product. Thank you very much indeed for your time and, of course, for responding to those questions. You may now take your seat. Oh, Madam Kaberia, you have a... All right. Let's hear it from the Executive Director.
Thank you. I would like our PS representative, Dr. Linyiru, to make some clarification.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just thought that there's something that we needed to clarify on this. What we are launching today is the recordation, which is voluntary, so it's not really compulsory. However, from 1st of January next year, we'll actually start the actual enforcement. So for now, we are not enforcing, but encouraging that you do the recordation voluntarily. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Linyiru, for making that clarification. That from January 2023, the government is going to make it mandatory for all importers. So thank you very much for that. And at this point, we come to the end of our official program for the day. We appreciate your time, your patience, and of course, and finding it good to be with us throughout the morning and this afternoon. And I want to invite Agnes Karengo to move the vote of thanks.
Thank you very much, Bwana Event Coordinator, our chief guest, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is with a lot of joy that I stand here this afternoon to pass a vote of thanks on behalf of the entire Anti-Counterfeit Authority. And I wish to start by acknowledging our guests for their participation in this event, and more so because each one of them has walked with us in the journey, has been walking with us as we undertake the combating of counterfeits in the country. Mr. Wanyama Musiambu, our chair, Dr. Bruno, Mr. Kiambi, through the County Commissioner's Office, and Eric Timea. Thank you all so much. And before I go to the other partners, I would like to request all of us, the guests, and joined by the table of Dr. Wambua, to kindly just stand in acknowledgement of what we have done today. Sir, you have launched what is called recordation. I request that in remembrance of this, Frida will always have this at the entrance of the ACA offices. And therefore, I request that you come here. You will hand it over to her as a mandate of continue. We have launched, we have started, continue to undertake recordation of intellectual property rights. So I request that we stand facing the people so that they see what is happening. Sir, I request that you hand that over to Frida and Madam Chair as a symbol of, yes, we have launched, it will continue, we are more than committed. I think, Madam Frida, you'll go to the other side so that you receive it with the Madam Chair. And remember, when you're given by Mr. Musiambu, then it is not just a symbol you're being given, it is an order. Thank you. Let's appreciate them. Let's appreciate that. Thank you so much. And yes, on their behalf, yes, we shall continue to undertake recordation You may sit. Thank you all. As we continue, I'd like to pass a very special vote of thanks to Trademark East Africa. Eric, you'll pass this message that Anti-Counterfeit Authority really appreciates the journey you have walked with us. You supported a milestone that we had been yearning to undertake. That is the National Baseline Survey on Illicit Trade. And yes, you supported us, so we know where we stand, we know where we are going. We also have the observatory, and more than this, even the recordation system that we are launching today. So we really do appreciate that, and therefore, please pass our regards to your office. USBP was supposed to be here, and in absentia, I also wish to appreciate them as our development partners. I would want to acknowledge and really, really appreciate the government agencies who are here today. Anti-Counterfeit Authority has a mandate of collaborations. And yes, we do collaborate. And as a symbol of that, here today, we have more than 15 government institutions represented. Let's give them a round of applause, please. And I'll just mention maybe some of them very quickly. We have KRA, KEBS, KIPRA, PCPB, KEKOBO, KENINVEST, KIPI, we have CAK, PPB, KEPSA, Weights and Measures, among others. Kenya Wine Agencies Limited are here, and Kenya Seed, they are also here, all the way from Kitale. These are stakeholders that we really, really work with, particularly during the planting seasons. Counterfeits can kill our agriculture, can kill our food production, and therefore we work with them very, very closely. Thank you for finding it important to be here with us. In the private sector, we have we have many of you that are seated here. I'll just mention the associations. We have Kenya Association of Manufacturers, who again have supported us all the way, not just today, but have really, really worked with us. We have Agrochemicals Association of Kenya. I know you're here. We have Seed Traders Association. KEPSA is here. Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And if they don't mention you, we really, really do appreciate you. Let's give a hand for the private sector. And one that is on a special category as private sector is the Micro and Small Enterprises Alliance, an association of importers. This recognition will definitely also benefit you, and will continue to engage. Let's give a hand for MSME Alliance. Here today, we have represented the county government of Machakos, and I request, Daktari, that you kindly just stand and wave to the people. Kindly, Dr. Wambua. A special recognition because we have reached out to the county government of Machakos through the Department of Industrialization, Trade and Innovations, for which Daktari represents. And last week, as we launched the activities for this World Anti-Counterfeit Day, they brought together stakeholders, almost 400 of them in different rooms, but one very, very remarkable where the county government officers really participated. Thank you so much, Daktari, and please pass our regards to Waziri also. Thank you. Let's appreciate Machakos County. We have consumers represented. I know we are all consumers. If you are not a consumer, please put up your hand. If you are a consumer of anything, put up your hand. Yes, we appreciate you now in your capacity as a consumer. But yes, we have some consumer organizations, and I acknowledge Halisi Hands, who are here representing others, and I also acknowledge COFEC, who were supposed to be here, but were not able to make it for reasons. It is for the sake of the consumers also that we continue to combat counterfeiting, and therefore we appreciate you as a consumer and from where you are. And lastly, and not the least, actually not the last, very important for this event to be heard, for our message to be heard out there, we need the media fraternity. And therefore, we really, really do appreciate some of you were here as early as 7 a.m. And therefore, thank you so much. A special thanks to KBC. And of course, we know all the other stations are also represented. Thank you, and please continue to pass on the message. And for our guests, I know the media would want to see you for a little brief after this. We shall give you that opportunity. And last but not the least, this event was organized by officers from the Anti-Counterfeit Authority, and not just the event, for the recordation program to be where it is, that we have said, yes, we are here, we have launched, you can now record your IPR. As a consumer, you can go into the system and you're able to see some of the trademarks to be able to differentiate between genuine and counterfeits. The Anti-Counterfeit Authority members of staff, thank you so much for the effort that you have put in this, and the journey has just begun. Let's appreciate Anti-Counterfeit Authority. So with that, if I have not mentioned any of you in all the categories that I have mentioned, kindly bear with me, but I want to appreciate each one of you as an individual, not just from the institutions that you come from, but also as an individual. Thank you so much, and God bless you for being here, for accepting to be with us. And can you be one of us in spreading the gospel of we need to appreciate the value of genuine and do away with counterfeits. Thank you so much. As I finish, just want to mention that after this we'll have lunch. You'll be guided by the ladies at the door, and therefore, but ideally, you'll be guided at the door. So most welcome for lunch. Please don't leave. I know the media people might want to rush and file something, so if they rush, you can call us for, we can have a cup of tea later in our office. So enjoy your lunch, enjoy the rest of the afternoon, and once again, thank you so much, and may God bless you. Back to you, Mr. Kemane.
Thank you very much indeed, Agnes. And she's reminding me that she also wants to appreciate me. You have the opportunity.
Yes, this is one person who is almost always forgotten. We have had it good, isn't it? Yes or no? Yes, so to you, Mr. O'Brien Kemani, I'm sure when you saw him, you felt like, hi, why are you not saying hello to me? Did anyone feel that? Yes, so he's one of us in the KBC, and we really do appreciate the work that you have done for us here today. Thank you so much. And with that, I also forgot Maroon Commandos. Let's appreciate all of them. Thank you so much. We couldn't have done it without you. Asanteni sana, and of course, even the venue where we are. Thank you all.
Very good. Thank you very much. And I do appreciate for giving me this opportunity to be part of you this morning and, of course, this afternoon. And now I know the lunch is ready, and I'm going to invite Elijah Ruto to come and say a word on behalf of, or to pray for food, actually.
Thank you so much. Mine is so simple. Let's rise up for a word of prayer. Okay, let's believe and pray. Father, in the name of Jesus Christ, we thank you, Lord, for this afternoon you have given us. My dear Father, you started with us this morning. We have seen your faithfulness and your goodness from the start even until now. Lord, we pray that, my dear Father, as we go to implement the many things that we have gone through, and even as an authority, as we work on fighting counterfeits, may you give us the strength, give us the guidance, give us the wisdom, and help us, my dear Father. May you be with us and care for us, dear God. Even this afternoon, as we go for lunch, we pray that you may bless that food. We even thank you for the rest of the day. We ask for that you may bless us, you may be with us, and care for us throughout this afternoon, and the rest of the day, and the rest of the week. May you bless us and be with us. We pray this trusting and believing in Jesus' name. Amen.